Streetball, a variation of basketball that is known for players showing off their creativity, craziest dunks, and most incredible moves. It's a game where humiliating your opponent is the main objective, which makes you moves. It's a game where humiliating your opponent is the main objective, which makes you think that streetballers could never do well in a professional environment like the NBA, right? Well, what if I told you that there was one streetballer who was so good that he did the impossible? A player who not only made it to the NBA, but also humiliated the defenders with the same moves he used during his streetball career. This legend is Rafer Alston, and to find out how he went from being a streetballer to making the NBA Finals, we have to go back to 1989. A young Rafer Alston is 13 years old.
Hey man, I got a lot of requests for him in the comments, so we here. You know what I'm saying? I heard about him during the streetball era, but I ain't know he was in the NBA. I really did. I ain't gonna lie. So we here for it, man. We about to see what's going, man.
Living in Jamaica, Queens, New York, amongst one of the worst epidemics in the history of the United States. Just walking down the street to play basketball is a massive risk for Alston, but this never stopped him. Rafer would spend his days dreaming of hearing his name called in the NBA draft.
Like Rafer Alston.
Just like his idol, Isaiah Thomas, to replicating his moves on the concrete courts of New York, until one day when everything changed for Alston. Stephon Marbury, Alston's best friend and himself, would head down to Rucker Park, where the pair knew they would be able to witness some incredibly high-level basketball. However, today was different. Ron Niclerio, a local high school coach, was down 2 players, and if he didn't fill those spots, his team would have to forfeit. Luckily for Coach Niclerio, he saw 2 familiar faces in the crowd. Alston and Marbury would sit patiently on the bench, ecstatic to be sitting this close to the action, until Coach Ron's players needed a rest. Rafer would enter the game and showcase a repertoire of incredible moves against grown men. The MC, shocked by what he was seeing, grabbed his mic and announced, "This kid is the Energizer." In the summer of the following year, the Energizer became a regular at Rucker Park. The now 14-year-old was pulling out insane move after move, and he decided he wanted to wow the audience with something different.
And he skipped. And I jumped out my seat and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is my name, Skip to Malou."
However, while the newly dubbed Skip to My Lou was dominating the streets, he was struggling in another area.
Oh, that's Skip to My Lou? Ah, this is Skip to My Lou. Okay. See, I'm a one-on-one hooper myself. That's what I do. So I said, this is what I do. To let y'all know.
Life, because it wasn't just other basketball players that Rafer and his friends idolized. No, it was kingpins like Pee Wee Kirkland that they looked up to. Because just like the majority of his peers, Alston grew up in extreme poverty, and with his father falling victim to the substance abuse epidemic and his older brother in jail, Alston was often out until the early hours of the morning playing dice, occasionally earning himself $1,500 a night. However, this is where issues would begin for Rafer. You see, he would often wake up in the middle of the day, and given that he had to take 2 buses to get to his high school, Benjamin Cardoza, Alston often ended up missing classes for days on end. As a result of this, throughout his junior and senior seasons, Rafer would average 33 points a game, but he only played a grand total of 10 games. His attendance meant that he was academically ineligible. Skip, dreaming of playing Division I basketball like his idol, would check his mailbox every day, waiting for the same letters Stephon had been receiving. Yet, D1 colleges just weren't interested. Philip Matthews, the head coach at Ventura County, a junior college in California, had received a VHS tape from New York. Intrigued, he played the tape and would watch in awe, shocked that the player he was watching wasn't being recruited by high major Division I colleges, and Philip knew what he had to do. In his first game under Coach Matthews, Rafer would only score 2 points. His head coach forced him to showcase the other side of Skip to My Lou, as Alston would record 13 assists, and this wasn't all, because during another regular season game, he was only 3 points shy of a triple-double, with 10 assists, 7 points, and a mind-boggling 10 steals, leading Ventura to a California state title, with Rafer being named as the tournament MVP. But had he really changed? Because shortly after their championship-winning season ended, Skip's scholarship was revoked. Why? Well, his grades had seen a massive rise, with Alston opting to study psychology, but his truancy continued, resulting in Rafer Alston being back in the exact same position he was just a year ago. Jerry
Okay.
Tarkanian, the head coach at Fresno State, a Division I college in California, had 3 point guards who were all set to leave at the end of the 1996-1997 season. So, Coach Tarkanian had a problem. To solve his
ain't
upcoming
got no more
point guard hole,
guards. You better go
Tarkanian
get
would
that
sit
boy.
down with someone he had seen dominate at Ventura County and offer him a full Division I scholarship. But he had one condition. Throughout the 1996-1997 season, Skip would have to attend another junior college, Fresno City, where his main focus would be addressing his off-the-court issues. While Fresno City was nowhere near as successful as Ventura on the court, Rafer, understanding this was his final chance to turn his life around, would dominate the classroom. He attended every single class, steadily improving his grades as the season
my
progressed,
boy.
and Coach Tarkanian
how
would
you
keep
do
his
it, though.
promise. Rafer was just one step away from achieving his childhood dream. Nothing could get in his way, or so he thought. Throughout his first Division I season, Alston averaged 11 points whilst throwing 7.3
Is that Fresno
assists
State?
per game. On top of this, his defensive ability allowed Coach Tarkanian to implement a full court press, helping Fresno State to win 21 games. Rafer had proven to the world that while Skip Tamailu was a part of who he was, it was ultimately just a nickname given to him by an MC, and in fact, Alston was an NBA level point guard who decided to forego his senior season at Fresno State to enter the NBA draft.
Word.
But had he done enough? August of 1993, a fresh basketball brand has just entered the Air Jordan dominated market, named And One. While Nike was focused on selling shoes, And One initially began by selling t-shirts geared towards streetball players rather than the general population, and by 1996 they had signed their first professional athlete. In similar
Stephon
fashion to
Marbury?
Coach Matthews,
That's
a
hard.
VHS tape would land on the desks of the And
hard,
One
I ain't gonna
executives,
lie.
and given that they were planning on
Skip
shaking
him
up
up.
the basketball landscape, they knew
Skip
exactly
him
what
up,
they had to do.
nasty.
So, Skip Tamailu, alongside some other New York streetballers, would travel around the United States, playing against other cities' best streetball teams. Their goal, showcase a
nasty.
unique style of basketball, one that
That's
removes
hard,
some
I
of
ain't
the
gonna
most
lie.
fundamental rules to
Oh.
allow room for more
Pull up,
creativity, highlights, and embarrassment. During his pre-draft period, Skip had shown that not only was he a legitimate NBA prospect, but he was also one of the best and most exciting streetball players to ever step foot onto the blacktop. However, with NBA executives being highly focused on Rafer's every move, was this really the best decision? June 24th, 1998, Rafer is sitting inside a restaurant in Los Angeles as NBA Commissioner David Stern begins to read out the first round draft picks. Due to playing his collegiate basketball in California, Los Angeles Lakers general manager Jerry West had seen a lot of Rafer in college, and he needed to find a solid backup point guard for his newly formed super team. Therefore, Alston was invited for 2 private pre-draft workouts, and he assumed it would be the Lakers calling his name.
With the 23rd pick in the 1998 NBA Draft, the Denver Nuggets select Tyronn Lue from the University of Nebraska.
With the 26th pick in the 1998 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Sam Jacobson
Damn.
from the University of Minnesota.
However,
Sam
despite Los
Jacobson.
Angeles choosing to go with another point guard,
that?
Skip wasn't bothered because his real hometown team, the New York Knicks, after losing to the Indiana Pacers in the second round of the 1998 playoffs, were also in need of a backup point guard. On top of this, they had been scouting Alston since he was 13 years old, even going so far as sending scouts to California to watch his collegiate games.
With the 9th pick in the second round of the NBA draft, the New York Knicks select DeMarco Johnson, University of North Carolina, Charlotte.
Yet again, Skip had been lied to. But why? Well, NBA teams were worried about his off-court actions because Rafer had been involved in a domestic violence incident and had failed to attend his mandatory anger management classes.
Hold on, damn.
This
bruh.
truancy resulted in the point guard potentially facing
Y'all
jail
got me
time
back,
or
bruh. Y'all
a
got-
hefty
yeah.
fine. And this wasn't all. NBA teams were worried about selecting Rafer Alston, but getting Skip Tamailu. The draft would go to an ad break as Rafer sat alone and upset. But once the draft returned, this happened.
With the 10th pick in the second round of the NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Rafer Alston
What we
from Fresno
doing?
State.
I like what Kenny Smith said about this guy. John Thompson said he can dribble through a keyhole. What's your take on Rafer Alston?
Kenny Smith would have taken him first. With his enthusiasm. Yeah.
Is Milwaukee
Kenny from New York.
looking, that's a tough
Kenny
call
know
to make
what's
now
up.
when you think of you know, Brandon and Perry. You know, so he's going to go in there now and he's going to have a fight on his hands to make this club.
However, despite selecting Alston, the Bucks decided not to offer him a contract for the 1998-1999 season, resulting in Alston being unable to pay the $25,000 fine he was required to donate to a women's refuge shelter. Therefore, Alston would spend 90 days in jail throughout what should have been his first NBA season. Rafer would lay in his cell reflecting on all the other New York streetball legends who had made it this far, such as Pee Wee Kirkland, who had been picked by the Chicago Bulls, but had failed to ever step foot onto an NBA floor. Given that his rookie contract with the Bucks wasn't guaranteed, he was going to have to make some dramatic changes if he was ever going to achieve his dream. Therefore, Skip decided to play in the NBA Development League, which at the time was known as the CBA, for the Idaho Stampede. His goal wasn't to dominate. Instead, Rafer knew that he had to show the NBA he was capable of being Rafer Alston, because it was clear to him that his street image had been etched into the brains of NBA executives. For the Stampede, Milwaukee would begin to understand what Alston truly had to offer. Therefore, right before the 1999-2000 season began, they would sign Rafer to a 2-year deal. However, would he actually play, or was he destined to just be another streetball legend who never saw the court? February 17th, 2000. After finally being placed in the lineup after months of hard work, Alston would make his NBA debut, scoring his first points on a pull-up jump shot. And 2 months later, on April 19th, he would score in double digits, scoring 10 points in the Bucks' final regular season game. However, this would be the only positive for quite a while. The Milwaukee Bucks and head coach George Karl had little playing time for a developing NBA point guard. Their focus was competing for an NBA championship. However, starting point guard Sam Cassell injured his ankle late in the 2001-2002 season. Alston would start in his place and begin to show glimpses of who he could become, scoring 14 points against the Sacramento Kings and having 2 10-assist games in the 5 games he was able to start. So, with his contract up for renewal, it seemed likely that Rafer would be brought back by the Bucks into a larger, true backup point guard role. However, this was far from the truth, with Milwaukee choosing not to re-sign Alston. And it wasn't just the Bucks who weren't interested, because despite Golden State signing him, he was ultimately cut just before the season began. So, was this the end of Skip to My Lou's NBA career? The Mobile Revelers were a brand new team in the NBA's brand new league, the NBA D-League, and it was here where Rafer would once again showcase his true abilities as an NBA point guard. Skip had yet again shown the NBA world who he truly was, and on January 9th, something incredible would happen. Lenny Wilkens, another point guard from New York who paved his way to a 15-year NBA career, was named as the Toronto Raptors head coach before the 2000-2001 season began. Given his heritage, Wilkens was always aware of the upcoming New York point guards, and he, much like Jerry Tykanian, saw something no one else did. Therefore, Rafer would sign with the Raptors on a 10-day contract. Knowing that this was his final chance to prove to the NBA that he could run a team, Skip would drop 17 points in his debut game and throw 11 assists in his third, averaging 10.7 points, 6 assists, and 1 steal throughout his 10-day contract. Toronto had found a diamond in the rough. So, on January 20th, Rafer was signed for the remainder of the 2002-2003 NBA season. Alston had finally achieved his lifelong dream. He was a legitimate NBA point guard, and this wasn't all, because he was given the starting point guard role in their final 3 games that season, where he would average 20.3 points, 7.8 assists, 6.3 rebounds, and 1.3 steals per game. However, had he done enough to sign another NBA deal, or would he have to return to the D-League once again? June 26, 2003. The Miami Heat have just selected Dwayne Wade with their 5th pick and would sign free agent Lamar Odom a few months later to pair with their 2002 top pick Caron Butler. And Heat president Pat Riley wasn't done. You see, he knew his talented group of forwards would need a solid forward general, and this wasn't the only positive, because within head coach Stan Van Gundy's system, Skip would get a chance to showcase another ability no one thought he had, because late in a regular season game against Dallas, this happened.
It's Alston. This is for the win. It's good.
Everyone knows you as a slam dunk guy, as a fancy street ball player. When did you become
slam dunk guy? Wait, never see him slam dunk. What is you talking about?
Stop the cap.
I'm a shooter.
I've been working on it every summer, working on it when I get in the training camp, work on it every day in practice. It's a shot that they give it to me night in, night out. No one gives me respect in this league yet.
But this wasn't all.
Stop playing with him.
Thanks to Pat Riley's vision,
Pull
the
up.
Heat added 17 wins to their record, earning them the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference.
My boy said he
However,
catch
would
and
Rafer's
shoot.
game translate to the playoffs?
That's
Game
crazy.
1 of their first round matchup against the New
Hey man, Pat Riley them turned a street ball player into a catch and shoot guy. Ain't that crazy?
Orleans Hornets saw Rafer continue with his off-the-bench role. He played a vital 19 minutes, hitting big 3 after big 3, as well as this vital pull-up jump shot.
He fired. Yes. Rafer Alston with a big bucket. Miami leads by 6.
Thanks to Rafer's play, Miami secured a Game 1 victory, and
Come
it looked
here.
likely that they would be the team to move on. However, Alston's minutes would take a nosedive, going from 32 per game during the regular season to 21
Bruh,
throughout their
they
7-game
win.
series victory against the Hornets, and this negative trend only got worse.
Damn.
During their second round matchup against the Indiana Pacers, things began in a similar fashion. Alston would see a massive increase in his minutes, playing 35 in Game 1, allowing him to score 17 points, and 36 minutes in Game 2, where he would throw 5 assists. But in the same fashion to their Hornets series, Skip's minutes took a sudden decline, only playing an average of 16 per game over Games 3, 4, 5, and 6. Indiana would defeat the Heat 4-2, and Rafer had a
They
huge
won't win,
decision
bro.
to make
They
because
won't
the
win
Heat
for real,
were
bro.
interested in retaining
They
his
won't
backup
win.
point guard services. They valued his ability to catch and shoot and be an extension of Coach Van Gundy. However, another NBA team had a starting point guard role that needed to be filled, as
Who that?
well as a guaranteed 6-year contract.
Ooh,
The Toronto
guaranteed
Raptors.
6
Alston
year?
was conflicted. If he stays in Miami,
Alston.
he will likely be competing for an NBA championship, as
Fuck
shortly
that.
after their season ended, they traded for the most dominant big man
don't
in
care.
the history of the NBA,
We trying to stay in the
Shaquille
league for 6
O'Neal.
years.
Yet, if he signs with Toronto, he would be their starting point guard, no longer having to spend full possession standing in the
I'd have went to
corner.
Toronto.
But it's likely the Raptors would completely miss the playoffs. July 29th, 2004, Robert Babcock has just signed the missing piece for his 2004-2005 roster, head coach Sam Mitchell. Babcock believes Coach Mitchell is the perfect pair with his freshly signed point guard, Rafer Alston. As promised, Skip was
agrees to
finally
six-year
a
deal.
starting NBA
Let's
point
go,
guard.
man.
He would average 34 minutes per game, 14.2 points, 6.4 assists, and 1.5 steals throughout the
Hold on, go back.
Skip was
much?
finally a starting NBA point guard. He would average 34 minutes per game, 14.2 points,
Yeah,
6.4
points.
assists,
Hey,
and
I'm playing with
1.5 steals throughout the 2004-2005 season. While
Okay.
his new role gave him more minutes, it also gave him freedom to express the other side of his game. Rafer was now able to bring out Skip to Myloo more, wowing fans and embarrassing
I'm
his
about to do you dirty.
defenders.
Bop, bop. Oh, skipped up my glue.
However, everything wasn't all positive for Rafer. Toronto would only win 33 games that
We don't
season,
care.
and Coach Mitchell would often use degrading
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you, we don't care.
No, we
language
don't,
towards his
bruh.
players. Skip had also set some new goals. Not only had he been drafted into the NBA, he had worked his way into a starting point guard role. So he set his sights on playing for a team with championship intentions, officially requesting a trade from the Toronto Raptors.
Bro, why did
Jeff
you
Van
do
Gundy,
that?
the head coach of the Houston Rockets, was chatting to his brother, former Miami Heat head coach Stan, about what needed to be done to improve their roster, because Houston had been eliminated by the Dallas Mavericks in only the first round of the playoffs
I
in the
forget them niggas actually brothers.
2004-2005 NBA season. Stan pointed out that they needed to find a legitimate floor general to help mesh the Rocket star players Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming together, as well as a player who could be relied upon to carry some of the offensive load if any of the star players were out, and Stan knew just the player. Mike James, no, not that one, was traded to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Stan's former backup point guard just before the 2005-2006 season began. Rafer had got his wish. Whilst Alston's scoring was vital for the Rockets, averaging 12.1 points per game, it was something else that Rafer provided, which, much like his shooting, was often overlooked by those in and around the
That
NBA.
passing?
You see, a key part of the streetball game is scoring and embarrassing defenders, yes, but another huge aspect is the flashy passes. So whilst Rafer was known for embarrassing defenders
Oh
with
my
his ball handling, he often
God!
flashy passes. So whilst Rafer was known for embarrassing defenders with his ball handling, he often dissected defenses with his passing.
Shots inside. All arms and elbows. Down low McGrady. Nice move to the back.
Getting the ball to his all-star teammates with flash and flair.
Rafer, great pass to T-Mac to the right.
Much like he did in Rucker Park. However, Houston faced some key issues. Yao Ming, their 7'6",
Nigga always
2002
hurt.
#1 pick, struggled with constant foot injuries. And this wasn't all. Tracy McGrady, a 6-time All-Star that was the focal point of the Rockets offense, was in and out of the lineup with similar issues to Yao. Houston would fail to make the NBA playoffs in the 2005-2006 season, but that was all about to change. January 17th, 2007, the Phoenix Suns, led by the reigning 2005-2006 NBA
Steve
Most
Nash.
Valuable Player, Steve Nash, were in town for a regular season game. But nothing was regular about this matchup for Alston. No,
Alston said,
he
"I'm
would
about to cook
embarrass
body.
Steve Nash.
I'm about to cook boy." Oh, Hezzy. Floater game. He took this
Shifting him
personal.
with streetball-esque moves, making him fall on a jab and rip.
Stop! Oh!
Good job. Taking it to the side. And boy, he faked Nash.
He was
Scoring
going
over him
nasty
with
even
ease,
that. Pull
ending
up.
the game with an incredible
Bow.
29 points.
What's wrong with Steve Nash? Can't guard me, boy.
By Rafer Alston, and he used the basket.
April 14th, 2007. This time, the Oklahoma City Hornets, yes, the Hornets played in Oklahoma City, were in town, led by their pass-first point guard, Chris Paul. However, this would be Rafer's
He's
night.
going
Skip
natty.
would throw an incredible 13 assists throughout one of their final regular season games, with each dime helping Houston to grab an 11-point victory. Speaking of W's, Houston had turned things around. With both McGrady and Yao Ming healthy and Rafer leading the offense, Houston would win 52 games, earning them the 5th seed in the Western Conference. It was finally time for Rafer to guide his team to an NBA title. Their first step, defeat the Utah Jazz. May 5th, 2007, Utah has tied the series after a vital Game 6 victory, meaning whoever wins this game will be the team to move on to the second round. Utah and Houston would exchange bucket for bucket, both team stars trying desperately to gain an edge. However, it would be the Rockets heading home after a devastating 4-point loss to the Jazz. Alston had failed to achieve his goal, and the person who brought him to the Rockets would pay. Shortly after Rafer's former head coach left the team, Houston had decided to hire another coach who had just been let go, the former Sacramento Kings head coach, Rick Adelman. Alston, who had been in this exact situation before, wondered if it would just end up like his second stint with the Raptors, or would this change be exactly what his team needed? March 16th, 2008, the Houston Rockets have just solidified themselves in the NBA record books thanks to a career-high performance from Skip. You see, over the past 2 months, Houston hasn't lost a
Skip was in
single
the NBA
game,
cooking
and
like this,
thanks
ain't
to
gonna
a
lie.
31-point performance from Rafer, they
Come
would
here,
win their
pull up, Hezzy, pull.
22nd game in a row,
Wow.
the 4th highest win streak in the history of the NBA.
Word?
Thanks to this incredible streak, the Rockets would win 55 games, and Alston was ready to get revenge in their first-round match.
He was actually cooking while y'all playing. He was getting toured in the league. Damn. I ain't know Stephon Marbury was in the street ball like that, dude. I ain't know Stephon Marbury was like...
Against, you guessed it, the Utah Jazz. However, Houston had a
Rafer
problem
Alston,
because
he out here
during their
cooking,
NBA record win streak, they would lose one of their most important pieces to injury.
Rest
Due
of the
to Yao
season?
Ming's absence, Houston would once
This
again be
man Yao
eliminated
Ming,
by
bro.
the Utah Jazz, this
This
time
man
in
Yao
just
Ming,
6
bro.
games. Skip was devastated. But it was another injury that would completely change Skip to my lose career forever. Stan Van Gundy, who had been acquired
Who's
by
that, his wife? Oh, you older woman be looking good out here nowadays. I ain't gonna
the Orlando Magic from the Miami Heat in exchange for a second-round pick to become their head coach in June of 2007, has just watched his all-star point guard go down with a shoulder injury halfway through the 2008-2009 season. Stan was shocked. Orlando had been so dominant that season. Their superstar big man, Dwight Howard, was having an MVP level year, and it seemed likely that they would be the team to make it out of the Eastern Conference. But not without a point guard. Coach Van Gundy knew he had to find someone to replace Jameer Nelson, and after talking to his brother, he knew exactly who to call. So, on the 20th of February 2009, Rafer Alston was traded to the Orlando Magic to fill in for the injured Jameer Nelson. Skip had finally got his chance to be on an NBA championship contending team, one that aside from Nelson was 100% healthy and primed for a deep playoff run. But was Rafer actually capable of leading his team to a playoff series victory? Or were all the critics right in saying that Skip was just a street baller trying to be an NBA player, rather than an incredible professional point guard that just so happens to have played street ball? Throughout their first round matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers, Alston averaged an impressive 15.2 points, 4.8 assists, and 1.2 steals in their 6-game victory. Rafer had shown that he was more than capable of leading his team to a playoff series victory, but he, alongside his Magic teammates, were hungry for a championship. Next opponent wasn't a young team that was just happy to have made the playoffs. No, they were set to face the defending NBA champions, the Boston Celtics. This would be Skip's first real test against arguably the best point guard in the NBA that season, Rondo. Yet it wasn't Rondo who tested Rafer throughout their first 2 games. You see, Eddie House was on fire during game 2, scoring an incredible 31 points off the bench. And after he hit a tough long 2 against Skip, Rafer would...
I ain't gonna lie, Eddie House got one of the fastest jump shots I've ever seen in my life. I remember Eddie House. That jump shot quick, but I ain't know he was... Like, he'd come out of nowhere and shoot a lot of threes. Like, he wasn't really consistent.
Did you say something to make Rafer slap you in the head?
No, I just made a shot, and I think that, you know, that's what happens when you start busting somebody. They get upset like that instead and resort to Bush League tactics.
Oh, no, he didn't. Skip to my Lou. Are you kidding me about that? No way were you bringing that to the and one circuit. Hot sauce and headache would have eaten you alive for that, dog.
Alston would be suspended for his actions during Game 3. The time off allowed him an opportunity to reflect on how the NBA really viewed him, because over the following week of games, Rafer would dissect Boston's defense, utilizing his incredible basketball IQ to find wide open shooters.
Petrus, no hesitation. He's hit 2 outside shots in a row.
His incredible passing ability to seam passes through impossible gaps
Racing the floor,
and get into a skip to my Lou bag of tricks when it was needed for some crucial buckets.
Things maybe get a little out of hand in the second half.
Meaning, despite the series going all the way to Game 7, it was Orlando who would be moving on to the Eastern Conference Finals. May 20th, 2009, the 2008-2009 NBA Most Valuable Player has just scored his 48th and 49th point. LeBron James has given his Cleveland Cavaliers a 2-point lead with 25.8 seconds remaining. Alston's incredible 8-assist performance was mere seconds away from meaning nothing.
1.5 differential between the game clock and shot clock.
Scott to Milo, Richard, Rashad, Lewis, check Lou.
Lewis for 3.
Yes. Big Rashad Lewis said, "Stop playing with me, shorty."
Pops it out to Turtle.
Let me back to him. I got you, shorty.
Lewis for 3. Yes.
Hit that bitch. Rashad Lewis said, "Stop playing me."
However, LeBron wasn't finished.
He
wanted nothing more than another opportunity to win the elusive NBA championship he had been fighting for since he entered the NBA in 2003. Therefore, over the next 5 games, James averaged a mind-boggling 36 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 8 assists. But was this enough to get his Cavaliers over the line?
8 rebounds and 8 assists!
Because Alston continued his point guard domination, hitting insane step-back jumpers over LeBron.
Come here! Fucking Hezzy Pool, nigga! Play with me!
Moving past him with a lovely Euro step.
Brian, you can't guard me! Brian can't guard me, man. Skip to my Lou said, "Skip to my Lou, you can't guard me, Brian." He really giving Brian buckets out here while y'all playing. Really giving me
Moving past him with a lovely Euro step.
Alston able to get right to the rim.
And finding his wide open teammates with incredible precision. Rafer was truly showing the NBA world that not only was he a legit starting point guard, but a floor general capable of taking his group to the NBA Finals, which is exactly what he had done. But would he be able to achieve his true dream of winning an NBA title? June 17th, 2008, the Boston Celtics have just defeated Kobe Bryant and his Los Angeles Lakers in
Kobe
the
ain't
NBA
losing 2
Finals
times in a
by
row.
an
That shit was
embarrassing
dead mission.
39 points in Game 6. Bryant was devastated. He had struggled to even make the playoffs since his superstar teammate Shaquille O'Neal had left the Lakers in 2004, and his first opportunity to win his 4th ring, inching him closer
Kobe
to
wasn't losing
overtaking his
back-to-back
idol
finals,
Michael
gang.
Jordan, had been ruined by Boston. Therefore, Bryant was a man possessed throughout the 2008-2009 season, averaging 26.8 points and leading his Lakers back to the NBA Finals. The stage was set. The Orlando Magic against the Los Angeles Lakers. Also, quick pause, can we bring back these old NBA Finals courts?
Yeah,
Look
them
how
hard.
amazing it looks.
Yeah,
The
them hard. I
giant
ain't gonna lie, them hard.
trophy, NBA Finals logo on the court. Anyway, Kobe was unstoppable. He dropped 40 points in Game 1 and a crucial 29 in Game 2, meaning Orlando had found themselves down 2 games to 0. Yet
Kobe said,
again,
"We gonna get
the
y'all
whole
out of
of
there
the
real
NBA
quick."
world turned against Rafer and his Orlando teammates, with many believing the series was completely over and that Alston, who had struggled in both losses, wasn't a championship-level point guard. Game 3, back in Orlando. No team has ever come back from being 3-0 down in the NBA Finals. The Magic have to win this game, and while Rafer Alston continued to be himself, he knew deep down that something had to change. Therefore, Skip to my Lou would show up throughout Game 3. Skip would use the exact same moves. Skip to my Lou would show up throughout Game 3. Skip would use the exact same moves he used to show in Rocker Park to embarrass his defenders on the biggest stage in basketball.
That Fisher can't guard. That Fisher can't guard me. That Fisher can't guard me.
Park to embarrass his defenders on the biggest stage in basketball.
That's nasty.
Skip would spin and cross his way to 20 points.
You say you better put Kobe on me, man.
Points.
Pop, pop. Ooh, in and out through the legs.
Saving the Orlando Magic from certain death. However, this is where things would take a dark turn for not only the Orlando Magic, but Alston's professional career, because Kobe Bryant was too much. He would score 32 points in Game 4 and 30 in Game 5, completely crushing the Magic. So, what now? Alston had clearly proven himself as an NBA championship level point guard, one that all 30 teams in the NBA could use, and with 1 year left on his contract, would the Magic bring him back? Well, with Jameer Nelson, the player Rafer was brought in to replace, returning for the 2009-2010 season, and Orlando in desperate need of someone to slow Bryant down, Skip was traded to the New Jersey Nets. But Alston had one key issue with this move. You see, New Jersey wasn't a contending team. They would end the 2009-2010 season with the NBA's worst record. And given that Skip was 33 years old, he knew his window for achieving his one true goal was running short. Therefore, the Nets' understanding of their new starting point guard situation would kindly allow Rafer to buy himself out of his contract halfway through the season, and Alston knew exactly where he wanted to go. Rafer would return to being a pure point guard. Pat Riley and his new head coach Eric Spoelstra were focused on creating an environment of structure, which is exactly why Rafer had signed.
Oh my God.
However, there was one clear trend with each passing game. Carlos Arroyo, another Miami Heat point guard from Puerto Rico, who had originally been the starter before Pat Riley signed Alston, was slowly earning his role back under head coach Eric Spoelstra, until one night in early March of 2010, when despite starting as usual, Rafer would only play 6 minutes against the Golden State Warriors. But this wasn't all, because in their next game against the Lakers, it was Carlos who was given the nod to be the Heat's starting point guard. And while Alston initially assumed he would just become Miami's backup, Coach Spoelstra didn't play him a single minute.
Damn.
Skip was frustrated. He picked up his phone and texted Coach Spo, informing him he was no longer interested in playing for the Miami Heat, resulting in Heat president Pat Riley suspending Rafer for the remainder of the season. Yet, given his value as a point guard, Alston wasn't worried. He felt confident another NBA team would pick him up. Or would they? Alston would spend all summer waiting to hear from his agent about NBA teams interested in signing him, but his phone remained silent. Skip Tomailu's NBA career was over. Rafer would officially retire 2 years later, ending his career as the only player in history to successfully transition from streetball to the NBA. However, while he did bring his Rucker Park moves to NBA courts, Alston was more than just a fancy ball handler. He was a floor general capable of dissecting a defense with his IQ, knowing who would be open and when. And while he did embarrass defenders by breaking their ankles, he ultimately did more damage, playing incredibly efficient and high-level basketball. Also, did you know that there was another NBA legend who won 5 NBA titles, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and led the league in rebounding for a record-breaking 7 years in a row, despite spending all night partying before his games?
Come on, man!
Well, that player is Dennis Rodman. And to find out...
Hey, man, let me know in the comments, bro. I want more reactions to stuff like this, bro. Like legends, hooping legends, street ball, you know what I'm saying? Let me know in the comments. Y'all want me to watch more reactions, like dunk reactions, you know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Let me know, bro. I'm gonna see y'all next video. Y'all already know what's going on, man. No cow! But my boy really, I should have made it to the league, bro, because I was a street ball legend, bro. One-on-ones, never lost. Never lost. And let me know in the comments, though, what y'all think and what y'all want to watch next. Let me see y'all next.